What up, roomies? Tonight on Neighbors, we're talking about a topic that touches millions of lives, but yet hardly rarely gets the compassion and practical conversation it deserves. Our guest, Ashleigh Graves, a nutritionist, wellness expert, and an author of Navigating Dementia Together, a holistic guide to supporting a loved one with dementia. Ashley brings clarity, science, heart, and hands on strategy to a world many families feel overwhelming. Caring for someone with dementia while staying grounded and connected and supported. We're going to break down what dementia really looks like, the holistic advice her book offers, and how she came to this work, and actionable guidance for both that are both insightful and helpful. Roomies, welcome, Ashleigh Graves. Ashley, thank you for being on, man. I really appreciate it, and
Thank
especially
you for.
and like I said before, especially with a topic that really touches close to home. I wanted to dive into this because just to give you a little bit more background on me and why this is so important to me is because I do come from a large family. Um, my mother has two sisters, two brothers, but my grandmother, who's the matriarch of the family, she's suffering from, I wouldn't want to say severe dementia, but anytime I see her or anytime like her grandkids see it, she always sees the younger versions of ourselves. Like in her mind, I'm still like 25 when I'm 36 now. You know what I mean? So it takes her a while to like recognize us and realize who we are. And it's sad, but at the same time, we love her and we want to give her as much help as she can. You know what I mean? So I really thank you for, not only educating me, but educating my audience as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is a topic that's close to my heart as well, and one that I'm very passionate about, and one born from lived experiences for myself.
Thank you. So for people who haven't heard of you, what and haven't heard of your book, what's like the core idea behind navigating dementia together?
So my book is from the perspective of my role as a holistic nutritionist, and I started my career in social work. So it kind of blends the two together, and also my journey of navigating dementia with a loved one and what actions I took um, to to support myself and also to support my loved one through the journey. And the goal with the book is to be written in it's short, to be easily digestible, so it's broken into 4 sections. One is just to give an understanding of what dementia is. The second part is some research on it. The third part is how to support yourself, and the fourth part is how to support a loved one. So it's designed to be short, concise, to the point, no fluff, and designed so that you can pick it up wherever you need to be. So if you want to read it from beginning to end, you can do that. If you're in crisis mode and you're a caregiver and you need some immediate tips right away for yourself, you can go right to section 3. If you just need to figure out what to do with your loved one, you can go right to section 4.
All right, cool. So it's more like, instead of it more being like a novel style written book, it's more like I would say, and quote me if I'm wrong, a almanac for people with dementia and how their loved ones and the person with dementia kind of have support.
Yes, exactly. And the reason that it's not like a novel is because if you're in it, you don't have extra time and you're probably burned out. You're probably overwhelmed. So the idea being that let's just make it concise and to the point so that you don't have to sift through a lot of information. It's just short bits of information.
All right, cool. And so let's just start from the beginning. How did you get? You mentioned that you was a social worker, right?
Yeah.
How did you get into like this line and made you want to like teach people about having a loved one with dementia and being able to support them?
I got into it. So I started in social work and I loved the job, but I didn't really feel like we could ever really fully help people. It was addictions and mental health that I started in, but it's heavily determined by the government at the time, the politics, the money, things that can come into it. So it's unstable. And I didn't really feel like I was helping anyone to the best of the abilities. And nutrition was something always that I had been interested in. So after social work, I spent 16 years in banking. While in banking, I went to school for holistic nutrition. And it was nearing the end of my time as a holistic nutrition for the school for holistic nutrition that my loved one was diagnosed. So first, I didn't know what to do because it hits you. You don't know how to react, how to respond.
But
And then as time went on, I was like, you know what? I just spent 2 years in school learning how to heal the body and from a holistic approach. Like I know what to do. So I shifted gears and started figuring out different techniques. And I tried everything. There was, if it was an option to try, I tried it. And then my loved one went from a memory score of 21 to 29 in about 6 months. And even the doctor was like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. So I thought
that's
there's
yeah.
something here. Let's put it all together in a book.
Okay, okay. So so for people that don't know, like when your loved one was first diagnosed with dementia, like, and you had this education, at what point did you say, you know what, I could use my background to help the person I love? Like, what was the catalyst for that?
It took time, if I'm being honest, because again, it hits you and it's not a death sentence, but it feels like one. So you don't know how to respond right away. So one of the biggest things that I did was I actually at the time had a therapist and I sat with her and just to sort of navigate the journey because it's devastating. And what shifted for me was when she said, we're going to a doctor's appointment and I'm so sad driving to this appointment. She's like, but the situation is the same. So what if you shift your language instead of saying this sucks, that this is what I'm doing, instead you're saying, I now have 45 minutes each way to go to this appointment that I wouldn't have had otherwise, that this hour and a half of drive time would have been spent working as opposed to with a loved one. So why don't you shift your language? And it was once that landed with me is when I decided that like we have the answers. You're right. It's all about perspective. I know the body can heal. I had to pull myself out of the pity party and then shift my perspective on how I see the situation to then say, okay, now that I'm clear headed, I've got the tools. We can start like with step one.
I feel you on that. So what surprised you the most when you first started like learning about dementia and helping the person you love?
What surprised me the most is how much the memory score changed and just how much I could see in kind of a short window. I started prioritizing protein as a very important piece of the nutrition and took out a lot of refined sugars like cinnamon bread or just things like that and made sure that we had a balanced meal. So my loved one can still have those things, but we also have to have quality fats. And also we need to have protein to support the body. And from there, the memory score increased significantly. My loved one's temperament changed. And while I'm doing the research, I put in the book, I was about 40% of cases can be reversed, if not remain the same, which is huge. That's almost half of that's a massive number of people that we can support.
That that actually
Mm.
it is a large number of people. So what would you say would be the importance of like not the person with dementia, but the people that are supporting them? Like, what's the importance of the mind state of the people that are supporting the person with dementia?
The supporters that can, like I said, in my journey, you can spiral so fast because it's not a death sentence. It's not like stage 4 cancer where odds are against you, but it feels like it. So
Yeah,
if we shift our perspective, then we can bring ourselves out of this sad state to a point where, all right, we can do something about it because we know the body's good at healing itself if we give it the tools that it needs to heal. And another thing I feel like for caregivers is asking for help. I feel like so many people think they've got to do it on their own, but we don't. There's communities, there's resources, there's friends, there's family. People want to help you if they know how to help you. So also asking for help and prioritizing some time for yourself because you can get lost in this journey if you don't. So finding time for joy, creativity, things that you enjoy, whatever they may be, but making it as much as you want to support your loved one, it is just as important to support yourself.
I feel you on that. And do you feel that the supporters are often like hesitant to like ask for additional help from like outside sources, except for like the person with dementia's like primary care health provider?
I think so. I think that we kind of live in a bit of a culture where we're often sort of taught to do things on our own that we need to survive on our own, but that's not how we were we're meant to be. We in the historically grew up in communities where everybody would band together. That's what we're supposed to be doing. And then it feels like it sort of veered off into just in your household, to keep it in your household. So we feel guilty asking people for help because I don't know, if you look at, everyone's so busy. So how do you stop and ask someone for help? But at the same time, people want to help you. They would like to step in and support you. Your friends, your family, community members, they would like to, but they don't maybe know how to support you. So understanding how to ask for help and accepting the help, is uncomfortable as it may be sometimes.
Do you see that a lot of people are resistant to, like, going that extra mile and asking the people around them for help, and just not knowing where to find like the proper help?
I think so, because again, you're in a state of shock. So doing your own research is hard. Finding community resources that are available can be challenging. What do I even need to ask is sometimes hard to sort of navigate. So it can be as simple as asking a friend, do you know of any resources available for me? Do you know of any community programs, any businesses that are available, any resources that I can start to look at? It can be as simple as just asking about community resources. Um, and then when we're venting to friends, they may take it as just we're venting, but maybe they can help you, but they don't know how to help you. So being specific on, you know what, I've had a bad day. I could really use a walk in the park or something like that, whatever it might be.
No, I get that. I get that. So, and I know that I'm kind of like staggering on the human aspect of it all, but yet again, it's just my own thoughts coming into this and how it's playing a part in my life. But when people do talk about dementia, from your point of view, what's the biggest misunderstanding most people have?
I think I think the biggest misunderstanding is the importance that our lifestyle plays in it. I wrote in there too, there's research coming out that it's type 3 diabetes. So it's plaque, this the high sugar levels that build plaque in the brain causing it. And it starts years ahead of the disease, always starts years before the symptoms come in. So I think that's a huge thing that people don't understand is one, how watch our bodies work to heal if we can give it the tools, and two, what tools does the body need to heal in the first place, because we're bombarded with fast food, easy things to pick up. And it seems more and more that if it is blood sugar related, if we continue and see more research showing that it is related to blood sugar or type 3 diabetes, how do we navigate that and how do we control it?
I feel you on that, and it's great that you brought up the diabetes thing because my grandmother also has diabetes as well, and
Wow.
diabetes does it runs in my family as well. So now that you say that, it kind of clicks in for me
Yeah.
a little bit because now that you said that the plaque builds up in the brain, and all right, so when it comes to that, right, and you said that the signs of dementia usually are years before anybody is truly diagnosed, right? Would you say that people with like more diabetes, people that are prone to diabetes or have diabetes in their family line, in their bloodline, are more prone to like getting dementia or like maybe having signs of it more than like
It
and some versus like people that don't have that in their family?
Yeah, it could very well be. I would have to look at more specific research correlating the two. I do think that I understand that being type 3 diabetes is newer research, so I think we're going to see more coming out about it. But if you think about it, when we look at like type 2 diabetes, it can be very much we learn from our parents, so we can learn the food habits, the activities, things that we do. We can learn these systems, so it can easily be, I think, easier to pick up as kids of families that have the diabetics, and it could in part genetic, but also day-to-day lifestyle. Um, and how do we navigate like stopping that? Like, how do we be the first one to say, okay, we saw what happened, what can happen, and what do we need to change to make sure that it ends now?
All right, I feel you. So how do you explain dementia in a way that's compassionate but also practical?
Oh, I would explain it. So it's really an umbrella term that it can be varying stages from very light to more severe. And compassion and practical, I would say it's where well, it's for one, the buildup of plaque in the brain. So it makes it harder to process information, and transit time is a bit slower. And as we age, the time it takes for us to receive information and hear it in our brain slows down. So it would impede that a little bit more. And then the second part will be just the memory of the basic things will start to slip. Like you were saying earlier, your grandma will see you at a different age than you currently are. And sometimes it's almost like it stuck in time.
Yeah,
Or I remember doing this, but actually it happened 15, 20 years ago.
yeah, yeah. That's actually what happens a lot with her. Like,
Mm.
well, like I'm Dominican, so she lives in the Dominican Republic. So when I do
Ah,
visit, she'll look at me for an instant and she'll be like, I think I know who you are, but I'm gonna just take a wild guess. Are you, Ariel? And Ariel is Ariel in Spanish. She'll be like, "Are you Ariel?" I'll be like, "Yeah." And she's like, "You've changed so much." And I'm like, "Grandma, I seen you a couple of months ago. I still have my long hair and my bushy beard."
yeah.
But yet, I'm, yeah. It took me a while to realize that she's still stuck about 10 years ago where she sees all her grandkids like 10 years or 12 years younger than what we truly are, like especially with her grandkids that were children when it first started up, and now that they're
Mhm.
grown, they're like, she doesn't recognize them, and we're like, yo, that's this person, and she'll be like, but I remember them being this child. We'll be like, yo, you seen them like a couple of months ago, and then she'll get like a little spark of memory back, and
Yeah.
she'll be like, oh yeah, and then things will like kind of roll from there.
And you know what, that happened with my loved one. They're from England. They came to
Yeah.
Canada in the late 70s, and we went back. My loved one and I went back a couple years ago, and some of my cousins, we went for dinner, and my loved one would be like, this is who you are. The last time I saw you, you were like 10 years old. This is definitely not you. So, and it's like 30 years had gone by, 40 years had gone by. Like, no, you're like 10.
And then
And
you're
just the
there like,
shock
no.
factor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's always like a shocking factor to them. The one thing I will say
Mm.
about my grandmother, even though she doesn't remember how I look now, she still remembers my dog.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she loves that. She loves my dog King. But why is it important to think holistically beyond medications when supporting someone with dementia?
Because medication is wonderful. It can help heal. I mean, it can help keep us alive. Western medicine is great for acute care. It can help keep us alive. It can help us live longer. It can take us out of crisis in
Yeah.
a very short period of time. Whereas your holistic support, it's going to take a little bit longer. So I am an advocate of both realms together. So seeking support with your Western medicine doctor, whoever that may be, but also seeking at the same time, and that's what we did with my loved one, support from the holistic realm, because what can be impacted. And I wrote in my book, things like heavy metals can mimic dementia. So you could actually be overburdened from heavy metals and have the symptoms of dementia, but not actually have dementia. It could be something
Mm.
different. So you want to look at the whole picture. And then if you look at your surroundings, we can do things to sort of help build up. So like I said in the beginning, protein was increased in my loved one, and that made a difference because that is an important building block for our bodies. It is important for the brain, the nervous system. It's the amino acids. It's crucial. So that was a huge piece in supporting memory care for my loved one. But had not taken a holistic look at the whole picture of like, okay, what are you doing? How do you start your day? What's your diet? What are you eating? What's your go-to backup meals? Then seeing, oh my goodness, there's so much refined carbs in a day here. That's going to be a big contributing factor. The second thing that we did that was huge, and again, this isn't going to be for everybody. It depends on the stage that they're in. With my loved one, we were able to go to the gym. So we go 3 times a week and we do strength training. And that helps to support the brain, helps with neuroplasticity. But while we're there, I'll also do memory work, simple stuff. So I'll say, we've done 5 exercises and we'll do exercise 1, and then we'll go to exercise 2 and say, what was the first thing we started with? What are we doing? Legs? Are we doing upper body? What are we working on today? And just continue asking questions throughout, because now we're moving, we're working, but we're also adding in some techniques to get the brain going as well. Or another one I love is dead bugs, where you lay on your
Yeah,
back and you go opposite side, that force your brain to tell your body to do something out of the norm.
I feel you on that. So you would say like keeping their mind stimulated or having multiple points of stimulation helps with like bringing up their dementia IQ. Or am I correct on the term on that?
Yeah, I think so, because and if you go on YouTube, you can actually see videos that have been created of the neuroplasticity reconnecting. You can see them sort of walking along and rebuilding in real time, which I think is pretty cool to look at. Because for me, if you can visually see it, then you can just think, okay, as we're doing this, that's what's happening in the brain right now.
Okay, okay. And this is just out of curiosity. This is just popped into my head. Um, because I know that as we age, the neuroplasticity of our brains, kind of tend to stiffen up and slow down.
Mm.
Would things like, for instance, like psilocybin or those chemicals help with that?
Is that like a prescription medication?
No, no, like for the street name, like shrooms and like magic mushrooms and like
Oh,
psychoactives and stuff like that.
maybe. I haven't seen any research on it. I wasn't actively looking at that research, but it's possible because we have a lot of research on adaptogens and mushrooms on how they support your nervous system, and it's everything's connected. So I would be optimistic to think that it would be able to help and support, because if we're calming the nervous system, then our body, a lot of us live in fight or flight day to day.
Yeah.
So if we can calm our nervous system, we calm the whole body. So I can't say for sure, but I would, based on the research of adaptogens, I would be hopeful.
I feel you on that. As a nutritionist, right?
Mhm.
What role does diet play to like day-to-day care with somebody with dementia?
It's huge because again, the diet is our building blocks of our entire bodies. So it plays a massive role. We got to make sure we're getting our minerals. We have to make sure we're getting our vitamins, and we have to make sure we're getting quality fats because they're going to support the nervous system. We have to make sure we're getting high enough protein to support our brain.
Mhm.
A lot of people are under eating. And we have to make sure we're getting enough fiber, which is huge because that's your digestive health, and your
Yeah.
immunity and digestive health are tied together. So it's plays a huge role, because if we're under eating or we're depleted or we're constantly in fight or flight, or our digestion isn't functioning, we're not absorbing the minerals that we're giving our body in the first place. So it can't replenish and it can't rebuild the way that it needs to. So we have to really make sure that the diet is on point, that we're doing well with it, not perfect, but
Yeah.
well, and also that we're absorbing what we're giving our body.
I feel you on that. So like you would say that a balanced diet would help the person, not go further into dementia, but kind of keep them leveled or at least help them improve a little bit.
Definitely. And I also am an advocate of supplements, and I think I'm pretty known for this, is I love creatine as well.
Yeah.
I think we think of creatine as this bodybuilder supplement, but it's actually so good for supporting your brain. There's a lot of research. I think it's one of the most researched supplements on the market. So I would also be supportive of adding in supplements like creatine, especially for women, because once women hit a certain age, their bone health will suffer more, their brain health will suffer more, their heart health will suffer more. So that could be a really good supplement to begin with. But also fish oils is a really good supplement to
Oh,
support brain health and nerve
oh,
health.
that's dope. That's dope. What are there any like food or like habits that help reduce stress both for like the supporter and the person with dementia?
Yeah. So food would be having a balanced plate. So on every plate, sources of fiber, quality fats, and protein. That's going to give your body mostly what it needs to digest slowly, digest properly, and the building blocks, the resources that it needs. And to make it easier, whatever you can do, literally anything. So it can be finding a go-to meal that you like, that you can get together easily in a couple minutes. And it could be something like steaming a steamed potato that you just throw in a pot, walk away, come back, it's done. Buying a chicken that's already roasted and adding some vegetables, maybe some olive oil on it, something that you can do that's easy. There's also, at least here anyways, I think it's in the States too, I assume, but it's a meal prep. It's Factor, where the meals are pretty
Yeah, yeah,
good, clean meals.
yeah,
So,
yeah. We have Factor down here.
yeah, I figured it was. I think it was a U.S. company that maybe is not in Canada, but stuff like that. That's you can stock your fridge on the days that you're already overwhelmed, but you've got something easy to grab because as a caregiver and continuing on with your regular life, the days can get away from you. So having some emergency stuff already prepped and ready to go, or when you're making your meals, double it and then freeze the extra, so that if you ever short on time, you can just pull it out. It's ready to go.
I feel you on that. You were pointing out that you were talking about a lot of like healthy fats and proteins, right?
Yeah.
What what w- how can I say it? What do you see when you're doing your own research and you're helping your patients and whatnot? What do you see? What do you see that is lacking from most people's diets when they go in with like a person that has dementia and those kind of things?
I'd say fiber is one for whether you have dementia or you're just a general population. Fiber is so underutilized, and it's a massive support for our blood sugar management. It's a massive support for our digestive system. I always encourage people to track in any meal service, like my Fitness Pal, anything like that, and see where you're at in your fiber, even as a preventative, even if this is something that runs in my family, or literally any health issues. If cardiovascular disease is something that runs in your family, any illness whatsoever that you want to prevent, start by looking at your fiber and tracking it, because that's going to like clean up your digestion and also support the blood sugar levels. And the second thing I find a lot of people depleted in is protein. And part of the issue is as you get older, your digestive enzymes become less. So it's hard to digest meat in the first place. So then if you can't digest it, you just naturally want it less. So I feel like fiber and protein are two things that a lot of people struggle with.
Oh, I feel you on that. So, all right, cool, cool, cool. So when caring for a person with dementia, it hits the emotions heavy, right?
Mhm.
What advice do you have for like people for the caregivers on that, and like how to stay grounded and supported?
Yeah. If talking to a therapist is something that is feasible for you, I highly recommend that, because sometimes it's hard talking to your family because they're in it too. So it's nice to have that person that doesn't have the perspective that's already in your world that can be realistic with you. Some of them have different tools and resources like brain spotting or EMDR techniques that can help support your nervous system a bit better to help you work through it a little bit easier. But for the caregivers, something for yourself every single day and finding some sort of joy every single day is going to be huge, so that you don't lose yourself and you don't start to get um, burned out and depressed. We know that there's a massive correlation between burnout and lack of joy. And the second thing would be doing techniques to calm the nervous system. So different things for different people. It could be maybe meditation. Not everyone enjoys meditation because their mind just keeps running. So then that's not for you. That's fine. Breath work, there's all different types. It could just be breathe in for 2, breathe out for 4, and pattern it to something that you're already doing. Like you come home, you leave the house, you're at a red light, something that you're brushing your teeth, something that you're already doing. Try to add it there. Or when you start to feel yourself really stressed out, then you start to implement the breath work. Another one that I love and I often recommend is at the end of the day, laying on the floor with your feet up against the wall 90 degrees and just lay there for as long as you want. It could be 60 seconds, it could be 10 minutes if you want. But that's a really good way to get the body into a calm state you can do it at any point in the day, but it's just a great simple way to get your body into the calm state.
From like your perspective, right? Do you see a lot of people, a lot of caregivers like dealing with burnout a lot and being overwhelmed and not knowing how to navigate that, like, or not knowing how to ask the right questions, not only for the person they're caring for, but for themselves?
Totally do. Yeah. And that's why. So now a lot of my focus is on burnout and burnout recovery. That was also part of my journey, was severe burnout while being a caregiver. Um, and again, it's because you're in this fight or flight, you're in this like stress state. and you don't know how to respond. So, and we're already in this fight or flight state. It's hard for you to reel it in, for common sense to come back and say, oh, it's okay. One step at a time, we can deal with this, because you don't know where your attention's just all over. So it's so important. I think we're never going to eliminate the stress, but do things for stress resiliency. That when things do hit the fan, we've already got these systems in place. And when you find what works for you, you don't let it go. So, for example, I used to walk every day on my lunch for 30, 40 minutes. And then I stopped doing that. As soon as I stopped doing that, my health went downhill fast. So I learned, like, this is a non-negotiable for me. I have to move my body at, like, in the midday every day, 30, 40 minutes. Otherwise, I'm going to struggle. And this is now part of my stress resiliency plan. Even if it's a snowstorm outside, I'll put my snow pants on. I'll bundle up and go, because I know that this has to happen for me.
Not for you on that. So what would you? All right. Now we know like things like meditation, exercise that helps like kind of like calm the nervous system down. Are there any other like tricks that actually work for people that are that are caregivers that feel overwhelmed? Like any advice or like methods besides like meditation or exercise that they could use?
Yeah. Another one that I found really helpful sometimes if you're overwhelmed is actually just letting your hands sit under cold water for a few
Mhm.
seconds, 30 seconds, whatever you can do. Cold therapy is a really good way to hit for vagal nerve support. So it can be at the end of your shower, turning the water on cold and just standing there for 20, 30, 60 seconds if you can. If that's too strong, getting an ice pack, putting an ice pack on the chest is another way. Humming, singing, dancing, just like moving, and any dance. It doesn't have to be fancy dancing. It could just be jumping around your living room, whatever you feel like moving in. That helps to sort of move the energy through and help to calm the nervous system.
I'll put you on that. Do you see that that a lot of people are not only in like this particular topic, but do you see that a majority of people are stay in that fight or flight state of mind, or like where their nervous system is always in that fight or flight? Because I feel like as a New Yorker, we're always in there, and it's
Mhm.
it gets overwhelming. So I personally don't really know how it feels not to feel like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I I get it. And I think that in like North America, that's just the norm. We work a lot, we work long days, we work a lot, we come home, we have a million things to do. It's so hard. Like,
Yeah,
you have to work to get into the calm state. Otherwise, that's the norm. That's the day to day. I feel like, especially in New York, because it's always go, go, go.
and it's funny that we work, and now we have to work to get calm.
Yeah. It's your part-time job.
Yep, yep. How do you keep like connection alive when cognitive challenge take place? Like what how how do people navigate that? Like especially like I said with my grandma, like it's
Mhm.
heartbreaking every time I see her and she remembers me as a younger
Yes.
version of myself. Like how do you keep that connection alive without like the caregiver or the person that has dementia
Mhm.
getting frustrated?
That's a really great question. And that's something that I've experienced as well. I was driving in the car with my loved one who one time was like, "Who are you?" And it's so sad. And again, I'm going to bring that back to your language, is that this is the state that they're in right now, but we still get time with them. Even
Yeah.
though it's not the same, it's still time that maybe we wouldn't have had in 50 years ago with the knowledge that we have today. And maybe it's a matter of, again, we're this like fight or flight, hustle, 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 get it done, get it done. Maybe this is also our moment to say, I'm going to scale it back, and now we're going to go really simple. And maybe it's just a matter of we're going for a walk, and it's just you and me together, or whoever else is there. But this is the moment that we're now going to be living in. Sometimes I find for myself, it's also listening to the same stories a
Yeah.
lot, but it makes them happy. Whatever makes them happy, or like
Yeah.
the jokes that are told. Just any way that you can find. And for in that scenario, maybe it's going back to that time. Maybe that was a very fond time. So what are some memories that you can share when you're together from that time that she remembers? Or asking questions about what was life like for her during that time, or her childhood, things like that. Wherever they may sit. Or if there's things that they enjoy doing before having dementia, join in on that if you can. So my loved one loves walking. So sometimes that's what we'll do. We have a canal nearby, go walk along the canal, and there's not always a lot of conversation. Sometimes we're just walking, and sometimes there's conversation. Just depends on the day.
I'll feel you on that. I'll feel you on that. So, what's like the most hopeful thing you've witnessed at your work? Like, have you seen any cases where dementia's been reversed, or like their dementia was like really bad, and then they got to the point where it's like, I don't want to say easy, but like lightly manageable?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So I would say my own experience with that. So, like I said, we went from 21 to 28 or 29 in the memory scores, but you could see the difference. So the attitude, the joy in my loved ones' world, and just their ability to go like their day-to-day activities and things that were 6 months earlier challenging are today not as challenging. They're much easier once we got things organized, once we got the exercise in check, the nutrition organized. I saw a huge change in my loved one from the
Yeah.
day one. And also that for my loved one, I think, came with sadness, because nobody wants that diagnosis to then 6 months later being like, look at what I've done. Like, look at how much I've come. The doctor notices it. All these people are noticing it. And the pride that also comes along with it.
I'll feel you on that. I'll feel you on that. What's like one piece of advice that you wish that every person that is supporting someone with dementia would have heard before they actually got into that role? You know?
I would say, um, I feel like I keep coming back to it, but language matters. How we speak and how we interpret the situation can go either way. Um, we can take this information and then become really sad and spiral down and become depressed and think how much this sucks, and like, how much time do I have? Is this the last day? What can go wrong? But the scenario is the same. We can change our language and say, you know what, this does suck, but I get to spend extra time. But I have now got to learn to do this. But I've learned way more about this person than I would have before. But I also know that we can do these things that can help prolong people's health and make them support them to feel better, and possibly even lessen the symptoms that they've experienced. So I would say your language matters big time. The same scenario can take you either way.
Okay, cool. So you would say like the way, how about like their mind state, right? Like instead of it being like this sad and depressive mind state, if they took more of like a joy, not, I don't want to say joyous because it is a serious topic, and like,
Yep.
as humans, we tend to like, I don't want to, as humans, we tend to like over worry and like
Mm,
sort of make the situation a lot worse in our mind than what it actually is in reality. So
yep.
like, how, what advice would you have for people that like tend to like over worry or make a situation like a lot bigger than what it actually is, especially with dealing with somebody who has dementia?
So, for one, I also think it's important to note that there is space for grief, that this is a change. Even if they're still here, it's a shift. The lifestyle, the relationship you have has been modified. So, there is space for grief, and we should allow ourselves to feel it and work through it and navigate it and respect that. But on the other side of it, how to stop someone from overthinking. Honestly, I like in the book, I gave a few tips and ideas. I would say just pick one thing. Just pick one thing that might make you feel better in the moment. And maybe it's just a sentence that you can repeat to yourself when you start to spiral, to then say, hang on, wait a second. I know what I'm doing. I am blowing this into something 10 times bigger than it is today. But this is something I can say that reminds me to bring it back, to sort of anchor you in to to a more, maybe a calmer way, or a more joyous
Yeah.
state than spiraling down.
Okay.
And sometimes you might have to work shift that, or maybe it's just like, okay, I'm blowing this out of proportion. Let me spend 2 minutes breathing in and breathing out. Big inhales, big exhales, and seeing how that sits in my body. and it's a muscle that's going to have to be worked, and it's a muscle that, like, it's going to be changed over time, that maybe what works for you today may not work for you in 6 weeks or 1 year. Maybe you want to have, that's why I wrote a number of things in the book of tools that maybe people want to work through, not do everything at once, but just pick one and maybe shift from as you need to, because what might have worked today may not work in 6 months from now.
I feel you on that. I feel you on that. That hits. That hits. Um, what's like what's one thing you wish you could change about society and how they support dementia caregivers and people with dementia? And what would that be?
Oh, one, I would like to make the nutrition way more accessible and understandable for the variety, for everybody, because I feel like our food system has become so challenging to navigate with so many chemicals and processed things. So that would be huge, because that would immediately reduce the lot of illnesses in the first place. But since we're not doing that, I think would I would say just to have a bit more compassion and remember to live in the moment in those situations, because they're definitely living in the moment. And again, we are coming from fight or flight, hustle and bustle. We've got a huge list, we've got to get it done, but that's not where they're living at. And we
Yeah.
can, if you bring that into the person that you're with, like your loved one, you're missing it, you're missing that opportunity, because you've let something that is 10, maybe your to-do list, take over the moment that you're sitting with your loved one. So practice being present with them and understanding that they way they receive information is going to be a little bit slower. So you have to be patient and present.
What's all right, cool. What is a belief most people have about like aging and memory that you like to challenge?
That it goes downhill always. So that's what's going to happen when you get older, because that's not the case. And we're seeing it more and more, that your memory and your cognitive health doesn't have to decline if we know how to support ourselves. And research is being done. So particularly with dementia, the research was stalled for a number of years just due to maybe lack of technology, and it's picked up in the last 10 or so years. So, um, I think we're going to see more research coming to support how we can change the state of our cognitive health for the better than what we used to believe.
I feel you on that. And just to like step away from the topic of dementia and more into the nutritional
Mm,
sector, right? I feel that nowadays that with society being the way it is and everything being so fast, that we all right, in for the sake of convenience, we give up, our health, when it
yeah.
comes, especially when it comes to food.
Mhm.
W- Am I right when I say that most like common diseases now, diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, dementia, all this could be factored in from like your nutrition. And if like you had like a better nutrition state from like an early age or like a younger age, that later on in life we would avoid these problems.
I believe so. I think that the majority of our top illnesses we have today are preventable illnesses, and it comes from our nutrition. The challenge, I think, is we're bombarded with stuff that's not good for us. You go to the store and you want to buy apples, but then they're covered in pesticides, and that's going to sit in your body and be damaging as well,
Yeah.
because it's going to accumulate over time. So I think that um, yes, if we started to hone in our nutrition, I think a lot of these illnesses would definitely decrease. A lot of the tips when you go, if you have cardiovascular disease, a lot of the times they're saying, okay, we have to mind or blood pressure. Let's exercise and diet. But then how do you do the diet? What are you supposed to do? Because we're now, one, it's harder to figure out what's healthy, what's not, because what one day something is a superfood and the next day it's the worst thing you can eat. There's equal amounts of research on how eggs are terrible for you as there is on how eggs are excellent for you. So what are you supposed to do? And I think it just becomes so cloudy on how do you navigate nutrition. So it is important. My opinion would be, or my advice would be, just to pick one area that you might want to work on. Maybe it's starting on increasing your fiber. Maybe it's starting on increasing your protein. Just pick one area, and don't worry if it's paleo or Mediterranean or keto. Don't worry about that. Just look at the numbers. Are you at enough fiber? Are you at enough protein? And go from there.
All right, cool. And how would a person like kind of navigate that? How would they find out like what they're lacking in, what they
Mm.
need to like boost up, like, and like advice that you would give like a patient or like a friend?
So if you're working on your own, I would start using a food tracking app or some sort of AI that can tell you what you're eating in the week and what are you lacking. That would be a free way to begin, and it can be helpful to see where your baseline is. When I work with people, I use it's not an assessment tool, but it's a resource that we use. It's called the NutriBody, and it helps to sort of, you answer a questionnaire, you answer the questions. It helps to give us a good idea of what areas your particular body is lacking in, and then we would work from there. There's also functional tests that can be done. So there's different tests you can see where your body may be lacking, where there's support. There's also, I work with a naturopathic doctor. They'll look at some of your hormones, or they'll look at your vitamin D levels. An MD can look at your iron levels, things like that, to see. This is why I believe that your healthcare should be really a team of individuals to help bring you to the most optimal health you can be in. But there's different ways that you can, there's paid ways that you can do that through these types of tests,
Yeah.
or the easiest way, the cheapest way, is to get some sort of tracking app, or literally using AI and say, today I ate all these foods. If I ate like this every day, what am I lacking in? And what should I be adding in?
I'll put you on that. So, you know, there's been like plenty of doctors or healthcare providers that they constantly say that you are what you eat, right? And the United States and like society itself, from like the early 80s and 70s, we had like the food pyramid, and we were taught dairy and grains, and you have to have this much portion and
Yeah.
that much portion. Like I know that that's been debunked, but like when it comes to the nutrition, like how important is it to like have like a custom plan for yourself? Because I know everyone is different.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's really individual. I think it really depends on the person. And why I think that your nutrition plan or your support really should be geared to you specifically, because you can have one person that eats cauliflower and thrives on it. You can have another person that eats cauliflower and it really makes them sick. So one thing you could do is an elimination diet, or I don't know if you've heard of the Whole30. It's essentially an elimination diet. So, and there's tons of resources. It's free. So it's 30 days. You pretty much eat fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, meats, and healthy fats. And
Yeah.
then after the 30 days, you start adding in groups of food to see where you are feeling good, and where maybe the foods that aren't meant for you. So for some people a meal plan can be nice, because some people like the structure. They want to see, this is what I should be eating. You've done the guesswork for me. I don't have the capacity to figure it out. Tell me what I need and give me the ingredients, and I'll go ahead and make it. But some people are just thinking, if you give them a meal plan, they don't, whatever you have listed for Thursday's dinner, they don't want it. They have to go more on how they feel in the moment. So if that's who you are, that's a meal plan is not going to work. So in that case, I recommend then you pick your protein, and then switch up your vegetables and your fruits. Go through the vegetables and fruits, add your color. The more variety, the more vitamins and minerals we're going to be getting, and the more prebiotics we're going to be getting for our digestive health, and the different types of fiber that we want to have. So if you're someone that likes a meal plan, then they can absolutely be helpful. If you're not, then just tracking to see where you're at, and then trying to hit those targets.
I'll put it on that. Does do things like your family, your heritage, your race come into play when it comes into like nutrition?
Yeah.
Because and this is just to go a little bit off topic, like I don't know if you've heard of him, but Dr. Sebi back in like the 70s and 80s, he was talking
No.
about how well, he was a doctor. Well, he was a holistic healer. I'm gonna say holistic healer
Okay.
for like to be politically correct. He said that it's important to eat the things that came from like your origin country or like your place of origin. You know what I mean? That's more ingrained into like your blood and like your DNA. Is that kind of
Oh,
like true or like or
I mean, I would have to really look into it more to be honest, but it makes sense because if you look at different cultures, they will thrive on different things. And um, Japan, they're more driven. There's a lot of rice in the diet, and
yeah?
whereas other cultures can't handle rice as much. So, I mean, there's definitely something that I feel like it makes sense that you would do better with your heritage type foods.
Okay. Mm. So that I just had that like little spark of interest. I had to ask. Um,
Yeah.
so what are like two to three things that someone could start doing today after hearing this episode, like to help their loved one or to help themselves from not being burnt out and overwhelmed?
Mm. So number one is find any tool you like to help calm your nervous system and do it daily. Make it non-negotiable. If it's going for a walk or if it's doing breath work, find one thing that works for you. The second one is going to be, again, I bring it back to nutrition, is um, sorting out your protein and your fiber and make sure you're getting enough of both because those are going to help build the building blocks for to support your body, but also the fiber is going to help with your digestion, which is also tied to your immune system. And it's going to help us to stay a bit healthier and more resilient. And the third one is going to be to find joy in whatever that joy may look like. If it's going dancing, if it's coloring. One thing I feel like is, if you don't know what you like to do for joy, what did you do as a kid? Because it's probably something that you did as a kid that you also still love today.
I feel you on that. That's sound advice. So what's next for you, Ashley? Like, I know you've tackled dementia. Are you gonna be tackling any other like diseases that people are not very knowledgeable on, or like what's next?
For me right now, I'm focusing big time on burnout recovery. Like I said, we talked about, I was very severely burned out. I ended up having chronic illness. I lost feeling in my leg for a while, and I had
Ooh,
to, yeah, it was a couple weeks, and I had
mm,
to come out of that. So now that I'm on the other side of it, that's where my focus is because I've lived it, I've learned from it, I've navigated it. So a lot of my time now is spent focused in on burnout recovery.
I feel you, and you and me is definitely gonna talk about burnout. Believe
Yeah,
that. And
yeah.
when you got all of that ready, let me know. We'll come back on and let the roomies know too.
Yes, awesome. I love that.
And where can the roomies and anybody who comes all across this episode could find your work at and all that?
So my book is available on Amazon. So it's Navigating Dementia Together, a holistic guide to supporting a loved one with dementia. It's on Amazon in the US, Canada, all around the world. My website is www.holisticallycurated.com, or I can also be found on Instagram at holistically_curated.
All right, but roomies, stop playing around. Make sure to go check that out because everybody needs to know this, especially people who are dealing with, ones who have dementia and, of course, our elderly loved ones. And I always ask this to everybody who comes on the show: what's a piece of advice or a message that you have for the roomies?
Um, I would say a piece of advice is to maintain your social connections, to get out. I know that life is overwhelming and that we can put what our needs are on the back burner, but make time for your friends, your family, for the social connections because they're huge for a lot of things, our mental health, physical health, burnout recovery, dementia care, all of it. So make time for your social connections and and loved ones.
All right, roomies, you heard it here. And remember, stay healthy, stay active, keep connected with everybody you love, and keep doing the things you love. With that being said, peace out.